Class 1, race officer speaking.
Pressure coming here, pressure coming.
A bit lower and faster here,
Still gaining on the lane line there.
We're looking at 10.5s and 42.
5s at 42.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us again. Hopefully you all listened to part 1 of our chat with Giles Scott, which saw him talk about his Olympic life. If you haven't, I'd recommend you go there first. It really helps you understand why he's as good as he is, but also shines a light on his tight relationship with Ben Ainslie. A massive thank you to Giles for doing the pod. Time is a luxury in the America's Cup world, so we're really grateful to him for sharing his stories with us. Giles was also quite surprised that he could talk about himself for 90 minutes. It turns out he had quite a lot to say. If you are watching the broadcast here in Auckland, I'm sure you're as captivated as we are by the live audio coming off the boats. We're going to get a little glimpse here as we take a quick listen to some of the comms between the main decision makers on board.
Pressure on the bow in 5.
Ley line is still 19 away with that righty.
Yeah, copy.
He's not seen that righty yet.
We may have to do 2 tacks around the left here, see how it goes.
Copy. We'll use the zone for the left.
Yeah, copy.
Ley line in.
Set up. Crossing.
My pitch. My pitch. Not there yet on the box.
2, 1, board down.
Out of context, it's all very calm and precise. That's Ben and Giles piloting their AC-75 towards the ley line as they near the upwind mark on the Cup racecourse. Seconds behind them are Luna Rossa. And that level of focus, of clear comms, is at a constant around the entire course. 20 to 30 minutes of concentration, all the while sailing the actual boat. It's impressive. I mean, throughout manoeuvres, we hear Giles and Ben coordinating boat control.
Turning. Clear cross here if we want it.
Okay. My wheel.
Powering up. Your wheel.
Main on.
Going straight here.
Trimming on. Need to get high here, Ben.
Yeah, going right mark. Right mark.
Copy.
My wheel, my wheel.
Your wheel.
Main on, main on.
Yeah.
And then during the upwind and downwind legs, Giles is constantly painting the picture of where the boat is, where the next move is going to be, where the opposition is.
It's going to be close here, boys.
Yeah.
Keep pushing. Straight in if we're across.
Yeah, copy. Main on. Crossing at the moment. Keeping it quick.
Yeah. Okay, this is finish, boys.
Yeah.
All of that executed at a phenomenal pace, literally, often at over 35 knots. It's not a job for the faint-hearted.
Great hustle, lads. Great hustle.
Giles Scott brings an air of calm execution to his job. He's a phenomenal talent. I hope you enjoy the time I spent with INEOS Team UK tactician, Giles Scott.
Quickly realised that no, that wasn't a wall, that was the wing. The biggest thing I'd sailed was the 45, and the second biggest boat I'd sailed properly, probably a fin. You cannot win the America's Cup with a boat that isn't up to it.
Let's talk about the America's Cup, Giles. By 2013, the sailing world had laid out its stall. Fast foiling multi-hulls were the big thing. I mean, a long way from the performance vectors of a fin. Yet for 2013, you were recruited as part of Luna Rossa. How did that come about?
Well, that's actually one of the positive things that came out of not qualifying for London, because I'd done enough in the fin to get my name around a little bit in the sailing world, and I in 2012, as soon as I didn't qualify, in 2011, as soon as I didn't qualify, I had a chat with the British sailing team and with Ben and said, look, I still want to do the Olympic run in and the training camps, whatever, but I'd also like to be able to have a bit of time to try and go off and get involved in professional sailing. And I was fortunate enough to get a phone call from Chris Draper, who at the time was with Team Korea, and he said, "Do you want to come sailing with us?" And I leaped at it. I said, "Yes, of course I do." And he that was, and then the period of time went by. He actually ended up being recruited by Luna Rossa, and I still managed to keep my hand in there with Team Korea. And yeah, it was sailed with them and joined them with Nathan Outeridge as well for the first event in Naples, I think was what we did.
That was the AC-45.
AC-45,
sort of the warm-up
the
kind of series.
Yeah, exactly.
To San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah. And I was, I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for, but it was a lot of fun. And it was perfect because I was yachting. I was doing something completely different to what I'd done before. I was learning heaps. And, it was great to be able to run that alongside the little bit of fin sailing I was doing as well.
For a man whose sailing career had been fully single-handed, I mean, here you are with Luna Rossa on a giant multi-hull, pushing, what was possible in design, in a team of, I guess, 100 plus people, mostly Italian. How much of an eye-opener was all of that?
Yeah, massive. Massive. Because it's a similar sort of thing. As I say, I'd been with Team Korea, and we'd kind of done all right in some events. And towards one of the last events, I had a phone call from Max, and Max asked me if I wanted to come down to New Zealand and join Luna Rossa. And of course, I just leapt at it. And I think I was on a plane with it in like 3 or 4 days of a phone call sort of thing. Just packed my bag and left. Turned up here in Auckland. We were based here in Auckland end of 2012, and didn't really know what I was walking into. I'd sailed the 45s and I'd kind of seen sketches and knew vaguely what the 72s were, but I had no idea. I walked in. I remember the first thing I did was I walked in and there's a big team meeting going on, and I walked into this tent and what I thought was a wall in the middle of it, and quickly realised that no, that wasn't a wall, that was the wing, and it's just massive bit of kit with a group of 100 people having a meeting, led by Max, and I walked in the back, and Max pointed me out and said, "Here's Giles, he's joining the sailing team." Kind of gave a little shy hello, and that was kind of that was my first encounter with a full-size America's Cup team and a big old wing as well.
Yeah, a full-size boat, wasn't it? What was your role at Luna Rossa? They made the Challenger final against New Zealand, of course. Tell us what your role was and what do you remember about that?
Well, I was a nipper sailor. I was a good sailor, but I had very little knowledge of the Cup, big boat sailing. The biggest thing I'd sailed was the 45, and the second biggest boat I sailed properly before that was probably a fin. I was very green-eyed, and on a massive learning curve, and I'd sit in any meeting I could, just to find out to learn. And, I'd fascinated because of, that boat and how to make it better and all that side of things. But also I was kind of questioning things that I knew about the fin as well. And I was like, this might work in the fin. I was just kind of felt like it was kind of similar to how, what my experience was like in 2008, training alongside Ben. I was kind of turned into this sponge, and I wanted to just try and suck up as much as I could.
What's it like inside that big Italian team? Just describe that for us.
I really enjoyed my time at Luna Rossa, and when I was there, I was very much finding my feet and where I fitted in and what I could help out with and where my role should be. But what was it like? It's kind of reasonably similar to my experiences with Land Rover and with INEOS. It's you've got your designers, your sailing team, your shore crew, and everyone tries to get along, morph together, push the boat forward. It's always it's multinational. Luna Rossa certainly was multinational back then, and I'm pretty sure they're reasonably multinational now. And it was cool. It was cool. I loved it.
When a cup cycle ends, I mean, the recruitment frenzy begins. How in demand were you, Giles, after that?
How in demand was I? I didn't feel like I was particularly in demand, if I'm honest. It's funny you call it a frenzy. I wouldn't describe it as a frenzy. After that Cup in San Fran, I was always going back fin sailing, and that was always kind of where I was going. And of course, I wanted to do the Cup again, but I had the fin as a distraction, so I didn't feel like I had any real drive to, have to try and find another Cup gig immediately. I kind of I was, hell bent on the fin. But then as time went by, Ben was setting up the British team, and that was, was going well. And he gave me a call, which was cool.
What did he say? Tell us about that call. Were you surprised?
I was chuffed he'd called, obviously. Was I surprised? Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't say surprised. I was, I was grateful for the call, and he wanted me to be a part of it for sure. I can't remember what we chatted about, but it was just a kind of, are you interested sort of thing, and I was like, well, yeah, I am. Of course I am.
The Bermuda campaign inevitably was filled with expectation. I mean, there was loads of British patrons, commercial partners. I mean, I remember a Royal Yacht Squadron member once telling me that there'd been some debate about where they should put it. It, of course, being the America's Cup, when you won it back.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but by the time you set up base in Bermuda, there was the sense, I guess, that the team was on the back foot. How difficult was that final run in? And what's it like knowing that you're a bit behind in the development race?
Yeah, it's a struggle. You cannot win the America's Cup with a boat that isn't up to it. It's simple as that. And yeah, when we turned up in Bermuda, we knew that we were, as you say, we were on the back foot. And really it became a battle of getting back into the fight and being capable of winning races, which is never the position that any team wants to be in, of course, especially in this game. But that's where we were, and I think we generated a reasonable amount of hype because we'd been so successful in the One Design World Series. We'd won that, and of course, I suppose the super keen sailing fans understand that alone isn't necessarily a form guide for the America's Cup proper, because of the design and development aspect to it. So yeah, it was turning up there and being on the back foot was hard for everyone. And I think once we'd realised and swallowed our pill and accepted that we that we were a bit off the pace, and the game was about, getting back into it and, doing what we could with the gear we had. We took it on, but yeah, wasn't where we wanted to be.
I mean, it must be so difficult, even in a small team, you're off the pace and you have that conversation, but there's like 100 people, isn't there, plus?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that work? I mean, how difficult, was that? Such a lot of people knowing that the decisions made along the way weren't quite right.
Well, I think that you have to. There's no real point, I suppose, questioning I suppose you need to understand why you've got there, but equally, when you're so close to a competition, it's only ever about what you can do to get better. And I think that's kind of it. Everyone's always striving to be better. The teams that turned up and were quick, I'm sure it's a much happier place to be trying to progress from, because you already know that you're on the quick side, but you still just want to get better. We turned up and we were on the back foot, and we're like, well, we've got to get better, and it's not going to be easy, because at the moment we're going out there and it's tricky, because trying to keep everyone's heads up through that's not the easiest, because everybody wants to win,
including Ben Ainslie. I mean, it's his name above the door also.
Yeah. How
did he react to that?
Well, I think, I suppose he reacted the same way we did as an organisation. He was leading it, and it was, I suppose, his messaging and leadership that led the group as a whole forward. So yeah, I suppose we all just had to knuckle in and make what we had better and do whatever we could to get it around the racecourse quicker. It's kind of it, really.
The racing looked amazing.
Yeah,
didn't it? In Bermuda. I mean, can you describe it at all? Charging round that turquoise water on what were back then pretty fiery boats. I mean, tell us what your role was on board, and I guess how much fun the actual racing was.
Yeah, it was fun racing, and a little bit similar to this cup. A few months out from the racing, we were really, everyone was a little bit worried that it was just going to be, a walkover, and you could guess the form book, and you could say, oh, well, these guys are going to beat them, and they're going to be a pushover. But that didn't, by the time the round robin came, that didn't happen. And it suddenly, it all came together right at the last moment as a fleet, as a whole. And there was some great racing. Like, the top teams were losing to the teams that were regarded as the slower ones, and it was a proper dust up. The racing was cool. It was fast. These boats were, they were really maneuverable, a lot more maneuverable than the big 72s were in the previous edition. It was on. But my role was, I was a tactician there, but the boats were so power hungry that it was a bit of a balancing act, because you were limited in the maneuvers that you could do by the rate at which you could recharge the systems. So, a lot of times, my tactical role just went out the window, and just had to try and fill the system so that we could get another maneuver in. So there was an awful lot of onus on Ben, just because of the way that those boats were set up and just how demanding they were physically to sail with the 6 crew that were on them. 6 crew. I think it was 6 crew. I get confused with the 50s. I think it was 6.
Don't look at me. I can't remember.
I think it was. Yeah, it was six. It was six. It was six.
I mean, Giles, now with a bit of perspective, it's always notoriously hard to win an America's Cup as a startup team, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you had solid funding, you had a great looking team set up, and on the surface, it all looked good. Where do you think the team went wrong in that last cup?
Well, I don't know. As you say, it's incredibly hard for a new team to win a cup in their first shot at it. It's a massive organisation. It's a lot of new people coming together, and creating the patter that's needed to kind of get the team engine moving the correct way is hard to get going. But I mean, if you breaking it down simply, there was the biggest performance differentiator in that cup was the foils, really, and they were the key component that any team who won had to get right. And I suppose the big drivers in terms of the foil design were a combination of the shape, and then how unstable a foil you could manage around the racecourse. So I think thinking about it purely from a performance standpoint, the foils is the biggest ticket that you had to get right, and the best foils out there were the foils on the Team New Zealand boat, and they won.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
For sure you would have been a man in demand, Giles, after Bermuda. I mean, was there ever a thought that you might go to another team?
No, there wasn't. No. Excuse me. I think I rejoined. I rejoined for the second campaign. Maybe, I'm not even sure. Like very, very soon after the closing of racing, because I think Ben made an announcement that the team was going again, and yeah, I wanted in. I wanted in to go again.
From the fallout of the Bermuda campaign, the INEOS team was born. I mean, does the team setup feel any different? I mean, I guess now, you're part of a bigger INEOS sports family. How does this campaign compare to the last?
Yeah, I suppose it is. It's a bit different. As you say, we're part of the INEOS sporting group, which is is amazing set of sports and sports teams. It's incredible, and in honesty, to be part of that, across such an amazingly broad spectrum of elite sport is really quite cool in itself. But yeah, but the way that the team operates day to day, and suddenly, how my role is, and the part I play is it's a reasonably similar setup to how it was. I mean, obviously it's not identical, but it's still certainly got what I associate with a America's Cup team way of rolling. The shore crew were having sweepstakes as to if it's going to foil or not. We knew that we'd made good gains. We felt like the boat was going a lot better. If we settle well, we can actually do some damage here.
Let's talk boat.
Okay.
I mean, it looks incredible. Give us an idea how complex it is to sail. Give us some idea of the detail required to get round the track.
Yeah.
And how, I guess, on the edge it all is.
Yeah. Well, if we were doing this podcast in a few months, I might be able to give you a bit more detail. But Yeah, the boats they're really cool bits of kit, but they are exceptionally complicated. You have a little look downstairs in all the systems. It's like looking inside a, it's like looking inside a spaceship. Really, it's all intricate electronics and hydraulics, and yeah, I don't understand what's down there. But the nice thing is that sailing it is it's still a yacht, and it's still the same principles for any yacht race. It's just you're ripping around and you're able to pull off maneuvers on a dime and foiling tacks, jibes, circles, pre-starts, whatever you want. They're really, really cool bits of kit.
What were your thoughts the first time you saw the design idea for the AC75? I mean, fully foiling, big foil arms, a monohull. I mean, a big departure. What did you think, and what did the team think of it?
Well, we were, Team New Zealand and Luna Rossa were clearly, they're working on the rule and what the boat would look like. So there was a period of time where we were playing a little bit of guesswork, hearing little snippets and saying, oh, maybe here they're going monohull, but they're thinking high performance, possibly foiling. Oh, they're thinking it's probably around 70 feet. And we're like, what? I remember having bets with some of the other sailors as to what it might look like, little sketches in notepads, and maybe a foil here, or it could be a massive T. Oh no, it'll have to have a keel on it, and and then obviously it got released, and the infographics as to close to what they are now, and we're like, oh, okay, that's not going to be easy to pull off. Because we were the first team to sail our small surrogate boat, we'd built it, we'd spec'd it, which was a real cool process to go through, something I've never been through before. How we were going to control everything we wanted to control, and it was quite a simple boat, but it quickly became quite complicated. And we went out to sail it, and the shore crew were having sweepstakes as to if it's going to foil or not. and Andy McLean Animal, our lead systems guy, normally with bigger boats that you're commissioning, there's quite there's a checklist as to what you do, and you've got to tick this off. And we pulled the sails up, Ben and I, and we both kind of turned to Animal on the chase boat and said, all right, well, what do you want us to do now? And he said, oh, well, sheet on and see if it foils. That was it. Off we went. It's quite cool.
And it did.
It did, yeah. It wasn't the prettiest off the bat, but yeah, it became a really cool tool. And I suppose it proved that the concept at least worked. Whether or not it would work on the bigger boat was another thing we didn't yet know. But yeah.
How close to the ultimate Britannia were those early boats? I mean, how useful were they?
In terms of understanding of the basic principles, the systems required, yeah, they were really useful, and we used that as a good basis for the early design questions that we needed to answer. We ended up doing quite a lengthy rig and sail program on it, which we hadn't planned to initially. Yeah, it was a good tool. We did a lot of sailing down in Marmanor, down in Spain, in real nice flat water. Yeah, cool little boat to sail.
Your role here, I mean, you mentioned the power-hungry boats, all that grinding. Is your role here a throwback to what you learned in Bermuda?
Yes, I suppose it is. Learned an awful lot in Bermuda. The nice thing is that at the moment I'm not having to do that and grind, which makes things a little bit well, it's not quite as exhausting, but Yeah, but for sure, yeah, there were some big lessons that we learned in Bermuda, and all the teams have been thrown right into the deep end with racing because we've not, we lost the World Series last year, and suddenly we all turn up in New Zealand and straight into racing, and it all counts for real. So yeah, it's all had to come pretty quick.
Talking roles on the AC75, I mean, I don't really know where to start. You're very vocal, lots of feedback to Ben, but you're also involved in the controls at times. I mean, can you describe your role or roles on board, and how hard is it to do your job at 40 plus knots?
Yeah, I suppose my tactical role is alongside Ben. There's a pretty critical communication loop there. I end up most of my time is spent on the leeward side of the yacht, behind the wheel station, ready for the next manoeuvre. And I suppose Ben and I together talk on tactics, other boat, where we want to go, what we want to do in response. All normal stuff that any race crew would be talking about, really. But yeah, in terms of what else I do on the boat, I won't go into. You can, if you want to find that out.
Giles, there's not many secrets. We can see and hear most of what's happening.
Yeah, but at this stage, why make anything easy for anyone? If people want to trawl through video footage, they can do that. I can tell you all about it in a few months. But yeah, there's a lot of job sharing that goes on board our boat, and yeah, that's kind of about all I'll say.
It's been quite the roller coaster, hasn't it, for INEOS here in Auckland? I mean, Let's talk the pre-Christmas racing. It's fair to say that things did not look right, did they? With the boat, with the team. I mean, it was hard to watch. Outwardly, the team came in for a lot of criticism. Ben, he really seemed to step up to take, I guess, roll with the punches and keep pushing on through. But at the same time, it can't have been easy. I mean, how tough was that time, both on board and back in the shed?
Yeah, it was tough. The good thing about it was that the ACWS racing came just at the right time, because we were really we knew that things weren't quite right before that, obviously, but we were rolling through, trying to look under every stone to find exactly where the issues lie, and some of those stones that we looked under weren't the right ones, but having that event and everything, in clear, broad daylight as to, no, something's really not quite right here was great in just aligning the team's focus in terms of, where to target that focus, what problems really needed resolving. And yeah, it wasn't easy, and there's clearly a lot of upset people around, me certainly included in that. Well, everyone really. It wasn't where we wanted to be. It was kind of very it had a little bit of the same feelings about how we turned up in Bermuda. But yeah, the great thing is that we, as a group, we managed to pull together and take it on, and again try and do what everyone's trying to do out there and make our boat quicker. It's just we had some bigger steps we needed to make.
Trying to look at some positives for Ben in interviews. I mean, we commented several times on the team makeup, on what a great team he had assembled. How frustrating was it knowing that you had the knowledge on the boat, but at the time lacked the hardware to do any real damage on the racecourse?
Yeah, it's tough because you for the boat to be able to look good, it needs good sailors, and for the sailors to be able to look good, you need a good boat. It's the comparison to Formula One is kind of spot on with that. Your best driver's not going to win in the worst car, and vice versa. But yeah, I suppose we had enough confidence in ourselves as a sailing group to know that we kind of felt that we were capable of sailing the boat well. But alongside that, we had to look at ourselves really quite hard as well, and make ourselves as good as we possibly could be, which hopefully is help put us in a reasonable position going forward. With now that we're debugging the issues with the boat, that we've already put ourselves through a bit of we've questioned ourselves as a sailing group pretty hard too. So it wasn't easy going through it. No one wanted to be there, especially going out on a race day where you kind of know what's coming. It's never, you don't want to do that.
3 weeks later, and you came out of the shed for the round robins. The team had 2 of the 3 races on the opening day. How did the team feel going out for that first day in the spec'd up Britannia?
We were quietly confident. I wouldn't say we were confident, but we were, we knew that we'd made good gains. We felt like the boat was going a lot better, but we still felt like we hadn't had a lot of time with the yacht properly working. So, we like, from my perspective, I certainly felt like I had to do a really quite good job to get myself to a level capable of winning races, that weekend, because the boat was working well. We didn't really feel like we were faster, but we were like, we're kind of, we're back in it, but we have to sail really well to win races. I think all of us took that on, and we won both races that day, which I think surprised quite a few people.
Throughout the round robin, you've not lost a race. I mean, what changed? And I suppose, did you all know it was coming, or were you surprised when you found the wheels to put the boat exactly, where you needed to be on the racetrack?
I mean, again, I won't go into the details of exactly what we changed, but I suppose the easy way to put it is, there's 3 big key areas of these boats. You need to have a fast hull, you need to have a good rig and sails program, and you need some good foils. So yeah, we focused in on everything that we could there, it felt, suddenly we knew in the build up to the round robin, we had some practice racing, and we kind of knew that we were close, and we were doing practice racing against the other teams, and it felt like we had a bit of a shift in us not really having a chance because the boat wasn't really there, to then suddenly it's like, oh, actually, if we sail well, we can actually do some damage here. And that was quite a nice place to find ourselves just before that weekend of the round robin. Not sure if I've gone off on a tangent there. What did you ask me there?
Don't worry, I'll ask another one.
Sorry.
We've plenty more, Giles.
All right.
Giles, I remember saying on the broadcast that INEOS now looked like a team that believe that given at least an equal boat, that they will win. We get a bit carried away, don't we, as commentators? But do you think that's a fair comment? I mean, how much belief is there?
Well, we certainly believe that we're capable of capable of winning, but we're not. We're certainly not anywhere close to being arrogant with that. We know that every team is very good. Every team has very good sailors. Every team has very good designers. Like, this cup is made up of, super teams. There are no slow boats out there. So, yeah, I don't really know, if I'm honest.
You've not really answered my question, have you? I guess we've watched all the races, including the practice races, and I just felt like the culture on board and the confidence on board has really sort of grown. And that if you're out there and you've got an equal machine, that there's the belief that you can do it. You can win races. That the sailing team is strong enough to do that. Yeah, of course we believe that. I think we know and believe that we've got a great group of sailors. We've got great support from the rest of the team, and yeah, that's the drive. That's the drive from everyone. And it's, even if we go up against teams that we feel that we've not got a speed advantage on, we're still going to back ourselves to win and do whatever we can to manipulate the situation so that we give ourselves the advantage we need to. So yeah, there's enough belief there. Yeah. Already much is being said about how strong you are at your role and about your partnership, the trust between you and Ben. I mean, I think at the press conference, someone called you the modern day Coates and Butterworth. I guess that's a compliment, but it's a big job, isn't it? And Ben, as we sometimes actually hear on the comms, can be pretty unforgiving at times. How much pressure do you feel to nail the decision making? What's it like being Ben Ainslie's tactician? What's it like being Ben Ainslie's tactician? I mean, of course I want to make the right calls, provide the right information, but to my mind that wouldn't be any different if I was speaking to Ben or another helmsman. Of course Ben wants the right information coming to him and is unforgiving because, like me, he wants to win races. Like all of us on board, like all of us in the team. And yeah, the racing these boats is pretty high pressured, and it's not the most relaxing thing to do. Although it does, at times it does when things are going well. From the comms, it almost does sound relaxing, but it isn't. So yeah, I think I just want to nail every piece of information that I give, make sure it's right, that it's as fact-based as I can make it, and that we're hedging the right way and responding to the competitor in the right way. It's yacht racing. We've already seen a couple of capsizes, haven't we? I mean, one obviously pretty brutal one for Terry Hutchinson's American Magic. When something like that happens, what goes on with the other teams? I mean, do you look at ways to avoid it? What are your thoughts on what happened there? Well, touch wood. We haven't capsized our big boat yet. We've had some pretty big crashes and stuffs. But yeah, we've not capsized it. But every team is well geared up to deal with the capsize situation. But yeah, it's not something that we're very keen to do, and certainly not something that you practice. But yeah, like seeing the Americans capsize the other day was, it's gutting because they
they layered over, and the first thing is, you sail these boats and you just hope everyone's okay and gets out, and then you get word that's all ticked off and good, and then it's about the recovery process, and they were taking a little bit longer than capsizes that we've seen to get upright, and they seem to be floating a bit weird, and then you realise that they've put a hole in it. That's no good at all, and you really wouldn't wish that on anyone. But yeah, these boats are they're extreme. They're set up on a knife edge, and if you want them to be faster, you go closer to that knife edge. And that's the way that we race them. We have to, because we want them to be as fast as they can be. So yeah, you're never ever that far away from a bit of a whoopsie.
What do you make of your fellow challenger? Tell us, what are your thoughts on your ex-team, of course, Luna Rossa?
Yeah, my ex-team, I was obviously with Luna Rossa in 2013. So yeah, they're obviously always have a lot of respect for those guys, and they're a passionate bunch, and they certainly are here to try and to do whatever they can to win. I think you've kind of seen that from the racing that we've had in the round robin. We've certainly had some real good tussles with them, especially that last race, which was a bit crazy, really. It's one of those. That was one of those races where you come out having won it, buzzing, and you only won it by a matter of meters, really. You'd never ever write those guys off, that's for sure.
It's been a while since a defender lost on their first defence. When you analyse the Kiwi outfit, what do you see? What do you make of the defender?
They're fast. That's kind of how I'd summarise them. They are fast, but since we've turned up, we've had them, throughout the last 4 or 5 months, they've had a click of speed on the rest of us. Obviously, we're certainly hoping that speed gap is getting smaller. But yeah, they've got a great group of sailors. They're reasonably quite a young group comparatively. A lot of the guys on board are mates of mine from the Olympic scene. With Pete and Blair and the likes of Andy and JJ, who I race against. So yeah, good set of sailors with a nice bit of kit underneath them.
It's an exciting time in your life, isn't it, Giles? I mean, I wonder, looking back, if someone had told that autograph hunter at Grapham that one day he'd be telling Ben Ainslie which way to go on an America's Cup racecourse, but also doing it at 40-something knots on a fully foiling monohull, what would that young Giles Scott have thought?
Well, he probably wouldn't have believed it, would he? Probably wouldn't have believed it, but here he is. So yeah, it's kind of a simple problem now, just trying to win.
Giles Scott, it's been a pleasure. The very best of luck here in Auckland. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's Giles Scott. I mean, you can't help but be impressed. I hope you enjoyed listening to him. Giles will next be in action again in the Prada Cup final, as his old team Luna Rossa go head-to-head with INEOS. It's the first to 7 wins, and all the action gets underway on February the 13th. It's impossible to make predictions, but I'm sure it's going to be an unmissable battle. Most of you will be able to catch all the action live on the America's Cup channel on YouTube or on your respective broadcasters, wherever you may be. We love your feedback and it's important in the podcast world. So please do let me know what you think, and please do also review and subscribe on whatever platform you're joining us on. As ever, the podcast is produced by Tim at Vertigo Films. So a huge thanks for all his hard work putting this whole podcast together. He's pretty busy down here in Auckland, so he's been burning the midnight oil in order to bring you this latest edition. Tim, as ever, many thanks. I do have to say a big thanks to the team at the Cup for letting us use some pictures and audio around the podcast. That's much appreciated. Thank you. So from all of us here in Auckland, until next time, thank you so much for listening and stay safe, everyone.
This is Castle 1. Castle 1. Race officer speaking.
Pressure coming here, pressure coming.
A bit lower and faster here.
Still gaining on the ley line there.
We're looking at 10-5 to 42. 42. This is Castle 1 standing by. Out.